Yeah, we have that idea that when we're in a role that we have to know every single thing about it. But if you go into a role and you know every single thing about it, you're already overqualified for the role. When someone isn't confident, you see them hanging back, you see them also taking on everybody else's work. That's another thing I see is that instead of holding boundaries and saying, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And someone else comes up and says, oh, I have this going on. Can you do this for me? And usually the person that's struggling will say, oh, yes, let me add one more thing. I think we have to remind ourselves that every time we say no, it opens the door for a yes that you really want. You're limiting yourself. As soon as you drop the word just, like, I am a middle manager, I am a volunteer, you're taking back your power. And everybody is unique, everybody is different, and your voice matters. I remember as a child being taught to respect my elders, my peers, right? Everything about my grandparents and my parents. Never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself.
Simone, welcome to the Made Leader podcast. I'm so glad to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, for the listeners, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Simone Knego. I am a keynote speaker, author, podcast host. I have a podcast with my 22-year-old daughter called Her Unshakable Confidence. And my whole brand is about helping people build confidence from the inside out.
I love it. And we are going to talk all about confidence today. But before we dive into that subject, what do you think the biggest lie is that we tell women about leadership?
That it's made for somebody else, right? That I think a lot of times we don't see ourselves as leaders. We think that it's something that a quality or trait that someone else has, but we don't. I truly believe that we are all leaders. I have we've been sold this narrow view that leadership means you're in the boardroom or you have the title. I believe in more of a kitchen table leadership, that it's in the messy moments, it's in the things you do every day. And so when I look at leadership, and especially with women, it's that idea that you don't need to wait for the title. You're leading already. And when you take that attitude into the work that you do, you actually do better at the work that you do because you're already believing that you're leading instead of waiting for someone to tell you that you are.
Right. Yes. And what I heard from you is the actions, right? Through
Yep.
your everyday actions. And you also said messy because leadership is messy. And
Oh
it's
my gosh. Mm.
I don't know if it ever feels easy. It never did for me. Maybe there were some brief moments, right? But yes, it's not waiting for that title, but going ahead and showing through actions that you are a leader. So I think that's super helpful. Now, one of the things you talk about when you talk about confidence is unshakable confidence.
Mm.
So, what does that actually look like when you think of day to day and you're talking to new leaders, and even if they're in their third year of leadership? I mean, hell, even if they're in their 10th year of leadership, there's going to be something that throws you, right? That does shake your confidence a little bit. So, what does that look like?
So for what well, my definition is that you're comfortable in your skin no matter who you are, no matter who you're with, and no matter where you are. And so I think that when we talk about being unshakable, it's not that you don't ever have those moments of doubt. We all will. Like that's life. We're human, right? We have fears, we're there's so many things that affect how we go in daily with our mindset. But it's that idea that when something happens, you get back up again. So for me, unshakable doesn't mean you never fall, but it's understanding that you get back up. So anytime there's something that happens, whether I like to say that you might fail at something, but you're not a failure. So
Mhm.
whenever something like that happens, it's understanding that, okay, how do I move forward? And instead of saying, oh my gosh, I could never do that again.
Yeah, because you will make a mistake. I mean, there's just no way. I think leadership is so gray, life is so gray that you're going to make some mistakes. And getting back up again makes a big difference, definitely.
Yeah. I think, again, that idea that we look at everybody else and think, oh, they have it all together. They're doing it all right. And after interviewing thousands of people, basically the answer is nobody has it all together, right? We're all trying to figure it out. And so I think when you go in with a different mindset of, wait, I'm not alone in this, whatever I'm
Mhm.
struggling with, then it makes it a lot easier to move forward.
Yeah, and I think that's important to be able to have those people you can talk about it to, right? Because I think what I've seen and from new leaders is that you just if you feel like if you admit you don't know something, then you shouldn't have been in the role in the first place, right? Or maybe they shouldn't have given me this because I don't know the answer. When truth be told, like you're not going to have them. You need to figure them out, and to
Mhm.
have that place where you can talk about it, and have more seasoned leaders also say you're not supposed to have it figured out. I think can help as well.
Yeah, we have that idea that when we're in a role that we have to know every single thing about it. But if you go into a role and you know every single thing about it, you're already overqualified for the role, right? Part of any kind of role you take is about the learning process. And I really respect when people say, "You know what? I don't have the answer to that, but let me go check. I'm going to find someone that really knows and I'm going to get back to you." I respect that because if someone is just going to come and tell me something that isn't real because they're afraid to say that they don't know the answer, then that is something that I'm like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that person because tell me the truth. And the truth is, I don't know the answer.
Right, right, and it's not, yeah, I don't know the answer, but I'm gonna go seek it out. I'll find
Yeah,
an answer. I'm gonna go do some detective work, right? Like, that makes a difference, the
absolutely.
effort. What have you seen, or, what have you experienced when, you've seen leaders who don't have that confidence? Like, how does that show up at work, or, out of work as well?
Yeah. I mean, second guessing every decision, not using their voice, not raising their hand. I mean, I think there's a statistic when in every meeting, three people do 90% of the talking. So you could have a room full of leaders, but most of them stay silent even when they have a great idea because they're so worried about judgment or they're worried that they're going to get it wrong or they're going to be criticized. And my thought on that is that if you don't put it out there, you'll never know. So if it's a reasonable idea, right? I mean, I'm not saying like, put something out there that has nothing to do with what the people are talking about, but it's so important that we do use our voices. But that's when someone isn't confident, you see them hanging back, you see them also taking on everybody else's work. That's another thing I see is that instead of holding boundaries and saying, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And someone else comes up and says, oh, I have this going on. Can you do this for me? And usually the person that's struggling will say, oh, yes, let me add one more thing. My daughter actually did this week. She is studying art conservation in Wales, and we're definitely working on the confidence bit with her. And she has all these different projects, different items that she's working on preserving and conserving. And someone said, "Oh, wait, I'm not going to have time to get the photos done for my item. Could you do the photos for my item?" And she said, "Yes." And I was like, you just told me yesterday that you're overwhelmed by all of the things that you already have to do." And she goes, "Well, I didn't feel like I could say no because then they would be upset." Or I was like, okay, people respect you when you say no, right? That it's a really important mindset shift to say it's okay to say no, right? And not feel guilty about it.
Yeah, I love that example because it's happened to all of us, right? You just kind
Mhm.
of automatically say no, and it's, I mean, you automatically say yes, but it's also saying no in the right way. Like, I think you don't have to just say no and walk away. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm overwhelmed with what I already have, right? My
Yeah.
own stuff, and I'm sure she got it done for that person, but
Mm,
to her
mm,
detriment,
yeah,
right?
to her detriment. She was telling me, "Now I gotta come home late tonight and do my laundry tonight at like 10 PM." And I was like, "There you have it. Like, you gotta understand that it's okay to say no,
Yeah.
and you can say no by saying, you know what, I have a lot of work going on right now. I really appreciate that you asked me because I understand that means that you really trust me, but I just can't commit to that right now." So it's almost like you're giving them a compliment back as you're saying no. So you don't feel guilty.
Right. Do you think she learned anything from that situation, or do you think she's
Let's hope so. I mean, that age is still a tough thing. I mean, like, obviously an emerging leader. So, but she did say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that again." And I was like, "What are you going to hide? Or are you going to actually use your voice and say, thank you, but I have so many things going on right now?" And she said, "I'm going to try it your way and we'll see what happens." It's like, okay, good.
Yeah, because we always say with my kids, it's like the natural consequences, right? So the
Mhm.
natural consequences for her was like she's doing her laundry at 10:30, but it's easy to forget that when the next request comes in, right? Because it almost like it tumbles out of your mouth, yes, before you
Yeah.
can even stop it.
Yeah. I'm a recovering um, yes girl. That's what I used to call myself, the yes girl, because no matter what needed done, I would say yes. And to the point where I had so many things on my plate and things that I had no desire to do at all, right? And I think we have to remind ourselves that every time we say no, it opens the door for a yes that you really want. And yeah, it's not easy, but it's so important. So I think for my daughter, it's going to be like, remember the laundry. Do you really want to do it at 10:30 p.m.? So every time someone asks you something, remember the laundry.
Right? Yes, that's gonna be your phrase to her.
Yes.
Well, you said, you take on other people's stuff, and I've seen that from peers, like, peers can kind of shove it over the fence, but also from I've seen new leaders take it from their teams, right? So it's their
Yes.
team's work, and they're saying, "Oh, I'll just do that," because they're so
Yeah.
worried about them being overwhelmed without any consideration for themselves.
Yeah. One of the things I think we have to think about first is let me take a step back. I created what I call the real method. So the first step in real, obviously we need to be real, is respect yourself. And I remember as a child being taught to respect my elders, my peers, right? Everything about my grandparents and my parents. Never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself. So when we respect ourselves, it's not something selfish. It's not rude. It's not arrogant. It's understanding what we're capable of and what we need to do to be successful in our own right instead of worrying about what everybody else needs to do. Yes, I mean, there's always that team aspect, but it's a team. It's not, I'll do all the work for my team.
Mhm.
I mean, I remember even my kids in high school and college, they would have team projects and I see my son, he's doing the whole entire thing. And I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, they haven't been showing up to meetings, so I just have to do it." And in some respects, it makes sense in college because the professor doesn't care how you got it done. You just need to get it done. But it still matters in real life, understanding like if you're
Mhm.
presenting and the other person on the team hasn't done anything, it would make a lot of sense when they start asking the questions that the other person on the team doesn't have the answers. So it's really important that we share that work and not take it all on by ourselves.
Yeah, and that I do some team cohesion work, and it does, that's how your vision of a team is what happened in high school and college.
Mhm.
You owning it all, or not doing any of the work. So it's a tricky situation. Well, since you started the real method,
Yeah.
let's go
Yeah,
on
okay.
through it.
Okay. So respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And I really created this because it came from an event that happened in my life. I'm someone that struggled with self-doubt for many years, and on the outside, I looked like I had it all together. I have 6 kids. I have done many things in my life. I'm a big proponent of it's okay to change your mind, but I never felt like I was accomplishing anything. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. Yes, I love my kids, my family, my husband, but I kind of just felt like I was going from thing to thing. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I started off as a CPA. Then actually, when I had my first child, I had a horse farm and I taught riding lessons and I um, created a summer camp. And then I went back to school to be a teacher. And then I flipped houses. And then I went into medical sales. And now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, which is writing and speaking, which is completely the opposite of any CPA I know. But but I love it. And that's why I said it's okay to change your mind, like go through the steps to see. But the real method really came from my evolution of understanding what's important. I mean, there was a very long period of my life that I did not respect myself. I didn't understand how to set boundaries. And, you know, every time I failed at something, I considered myself a failure instead of looking at as a learning process. And the ask yourself what you want, I think that's one of the hardest things,
Mhm.
especially for women, because we're so used to doing everything for everyone else that all of a sudden the question is, well, what do you want? Well, I have no idea what I want. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I'm doing for everybody else and I've forgotten about myself. And then the last piece, the live without limits, is really we limit ourselves every day. Yes, the world does too, but we say that we're not good enough, we're not capable enough. There's so many different ways that we limit ourselves. And the whole point is if you can say negative things to yourself all day long, you can say the same positive things to yourself all day long and actually believe them. So It's really about changing the way you talk to yourself, changing the way you see yourself.
Yeah. So with the real method, is it linear? Like, do you have to start one place, or is there any I'm trying to think about how, like, if there is a new leader listening, walk us through how they may be able to apply that to their leadership.
Yeah. So I would say yes. I mean, definitely the self respect piece comes first, no matter what. So that idea of not taking on someone else's work when you're not asked, that you're not required to, setting boundaries, saying no to things that in the past you would have said yes, but that's a big part of respecting yourself. The self care piece, understanding that you have value, that's all part of what respecting yourself means. And then you could either go with ask yourself what you want or embrace your failures next. Obviously, I wanted the word real. So that
I
the
get that.
yeah, yeah. It's easy to remember, but really embracing your failures is about trying. It's about taking risks. It's about putting yourself out there. If you don't try, you'll never know, right? And what's the worst that can happen, right? If you ask a question, the answer could be no. That's the worst that can happen. But in in real life, it's kind of like making sure that you're putting yourself out there so that you do figure out what you're capable of. Ask yourself what you want. Yes, I mean, that's true in leadership, that's true in life. Like, what kind of leader do you wanna be? Are you the one barking orders? Are you a collaborative team member? Like, how does that work for you? And then understanding that you have as much the living without limits, you have as much value as anybody on that team. So not telling yourself that, "Oh, I'm not capable of this. I didn't really deserve that whole imposter syndrome that they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure out that I'm not valuable enough to be here." And there's a couple of little mindset tricks that I have. One is the way we talk about ourselves, to other people. And I see this all the time now. No, the more I look for it, the more I see, of course. But the idea of the word just. So I'm just a middle manager. I'm just an administrative assistant. I'm just a volunteer. Drop the just, right? You're limiting yourself. As soon as you drop the word just, like, I am a middle manager, I am a volunteer, you're taking back your power. And when you start listening to people talk, you'll hear them use that word just a lot in front of what they do or who they are, as if they're justifying their existence, right? The other thing is I have a little mindset. Um, I'll call it a hack, but Control Alt Delete, which is how we used to reset our computers. Well, sometimes our brains freeze too. So the idea of understanding the control piece is that you will have negative thoughts come in your head. Like, I can tell you control your thoughts, but they're still going to come into your head. But it's really evaluating. It's the awareness piece. Like, is are these thoughts real? Are they helpful? Do they really matter? So when we're telling ourselves that we're not capable of something, is that true? No, it's typically not true. It's the story that we tell ourselves. The second part is alt, which is alternative. Tell yourself a better story. Instead of what if I fail? When I succeed. Instead of I can't, I can. And the last part is the delete, which is delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game, delete the belief that you're not enough, and move forward because everybody is unique, everybody is different, and your voice matters.
Yes, and it takes a long time, especially I'm in my 40s, like, it takes a long time to rewrite that script,
Yeah.
so you really have to pay attention to it and have that awareness so you can rewrite it. I think that's a great one. Well, as you were walking through the real method, there are a few examples I just wanted to call out. Like when you talk about respect yourself, I've had new leaders like there's definitely enough research to say middle managers are burnt out, but I think it really starts early. Middle manager, I mean, a new leader who's saying, I'm exhausted. I don't have the spunk I used to have. And, I haven't had any time off because they're afraid to take time off. And that is not respecting yourself, right? It's like putting that boundary that you need some self care. You need to take care of yourself because we don't need you to be a burnt out leader. That's not helpful for anyone. So when you were talking about, self value, that came to mind definitely. Um, and I think even when you're talking about ask what you want, ask if you want to be a leader
Mm,
because there comes a point if you're in it for a year or two or three and you're like, is this really what I want? And the answer can be yes. But I think it's really good to question yourself because you do influence so many people with your leadership. And it's okay if you don't want to be one, right? So you could say embrace your failures, put yourself out there and try it and be like, it's not for me. And that's okay too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the boundaries piece are hard, but I think it's also important in some respect. I don't believe in balance. I believe in priorities. So it's really understanding certain days it's going to be all about work and certain
Mhm.
days it's going to be about family.
Yeah, yeah, and they never seem to be even.
Yes.
You know,
No.
they hit you, one time, one the other, yeah, and it's expecting that it's gonna be tough on anyone because in
Mhm.
any company, there's busier times than others, right? So to not have to go a little bit above and beyond is I don't know how realistic it is, but, one of the things that is a standard saying out there is fake it till you make it,
Mm.
right? So, hey, new leader, why don't just fake it till you make it? You'll be fine. I know you don't believe in that. So,
Yeah.
what do you
I
think?
I don't believe in that at all. I mean, I've had so many people say that to me, but like, do you really want to fake being happy? Right? I mean, it's the opposite. Well, the way I like to say it until you become it. So if you're really struggling to believe that you're capable of it, just keep repeating it to yourself that you are. I mean, you see it in professional athletes. They tell themselves what they're capable of and they follow through. And it's not you do it one time and all of a sudden you're, oh, I can do everything. It's a practice, just like anything else. It's confidence is a skill that you build, right? It's not something that you're born with. It's not something that everybody else has and you don't. It's something
Mhm.
that you have to work on a regular basis. So that's why when you look at some people you'll look at and you'll say, "Oh my gosh, they're the most confident person ever." And then you see the behind the scenes and they're not at all. They really struggle. But it's that because they're not building it. They're just putting up this facade, this fake it till you make it, seeming like they're confident, but on the inside they're really really struggling.
Yes, yes. It's so interesting, and you can see someone confident in one area, but not in another, right? So,
Mm,
for example, like we just did a disrupt HR talk. I was on the committee, so I got to see all the speakers behind the scenes and then
mm,
on stage. And some of the people who I really were like, oh, they're going to be so confident in this. They were a nervous wreck. So it's interesting and it's speaking. Public speaking always gets a lot of people, right? You as a keynote speaker, um, and it is interesting that to me, confidence can be confident in one skill, but not
mhm.
another, right? And you can see those switch back and forth potentially.
Yeah, and a lot of it is also preparation. Like, people say that to me, "Oh, how do you feel confident on stage?" My husband will say he couldn't imagine anything worse to have to get on stage and speak to people. He's done it a couple times. He's like, "That's awful. You can do it for me from now on."
Yeah,
But
it was people's biggest fear, right? I
yeah,
mean, that
yeah, it is. It's
people.
people's biggest fear is to get on stage and speak. But for me, I look at it differently. I look at it that people are here because they're interested in what I have to say. And if I can help them change their mind about something or see something differently, then it's always worth it. I doesn't matter how experienced of a speaker you are, you still get, butterflies. That's just how it goes, but it's understanding that you're up there for a reason. Now, again, anything that I do, it is about preparation. Because if I'm not prepared for something, of course I'm going to feel like really nervous. So, the more I prepare, the better it gets, and I think that comes to any parts of our life. Like now with 6 kids, kid number 1, I was a nervous wreck about everything, The more you get, you're like, "Oh, yeah, you can take that out of the trash. It's totally fine. You can eat that?" And but I think the more experience you have in different roles, the more confident you feel moving forward because you're like, "Oh, I know, like I've experienced that before. Here's how I would respond to that." Or I've been on stage now 100 times. Now I feel comfortable up here because I know that people are coming to hear what I have to say.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking for new leaders, right? That it is that preparation, it is that
Mhm.
practice, it is that skill building, right? So I always, we talk about having hard conversations. The first one sucks. It's not pleasant. You'll fumble around, but after you do a few of them, you'll start getting better. It is preparation. Don't just try to wing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, let's just say presenting to your boss or presenting to your team, or all of these skills that you have to really build up, they do take preparation and practice. And I think they don't come naturally to a lot of people.
Yeah, the practice is a huge thing, and a lot of times we think that we know what we're doing until we go into a situation where like, well, that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to. But the more you prepare for something, and the more you can prepare for having answers when you don't even know what they're going to ask. So my daughter who's in law school is prime example. So they get these Harkness discussions all the time. And so she's asked to stand in front of the class and answer whatever that they were supposed to read for the day. And she said one thing that has really helped her is the podcast that we do, because you really have to think on your feet. You don't know what the next question is going to be. And most of the time, even if you do, you're turning a different direction, right? Conversations go the way that they're going to go. And so for her, having this constant, every week we do at least one episode where we have these conversations with people we've never met before and try to figure out how to keep things going. And especially when the guest doesn't really say much and you're like, okay, let me pull this out of you. So I think that's been really helpful for her. So anything that you can do in your life, I'm not saying go create a podcast, but the speaking piece, whether you're going to a networking event, really putting yourself out there so that you learn how to have conversations with people that you don't know and it feels more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just making me think, Simone, is like, first of all, it's like, what do you want? Like, what skill are you trying to get better at?
Mm.
Because when you even think about having confidence as a leader, how do you even quantify that, right? Like, confidence in what? Is it, have making decisions? Because I have, you talked about second guessing yourself. I've seen that
Mm.
a lot with new leaders, like just not knowing what to do and they hem and they haw, and it causes a lot of problems on their team. So do people want to get better at decision making, having hard conversations, presenting, communicating? So when you're talking about confidence in leadership, do you think of it as a general confidence in leadership, or as I'm confident in this one specific area, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a general confidence is how you start. And then you have things that you're really, really good at because you've worked at them for so long. But I think the overall idea of being confident enough to make mistakes, to be willing to try. So that's kind of overall confidence, but the speaking takes practice. The decision making takes practice. So it's giving yourself time to kind of grow into that versus understanding as a person that you are valuable and you deserve to be there. So that overall confidence, I think, is what gets you through the door. And then you have to keep working on all the other parts to make sure that you're capable of that communication, you're capable of that hard conversation because it's all part of it. You're going to have to do it.
Yeah. So what I heard from you, which I loved, was just that initial, I deserve to be here. I
Mm,
deserve to be here. I deserve to get promoted. And I can grow into anything else. But that general piece of that respecting yourself is what I heard, and valuing yourself and your ability. Um, that's what I heard. I think that's a great way to start, right? Just say, I belong here,
hmm
and go from
And
there.
and most people actually say the opposite. I don't wanna say most people because I don't have a statistic, but that idea of that, "Ooh, I don't belong here." Like, everybody here is so seasoned. Everybody here really knows what they're doing, and I'm a newbie, and I don't I wouldn't be even able to raise my hand for something because I feel so uncomfortable. And it's the opposite. Like, you're there because you deserve to be there. You're there because you have ideas that you can share. And I think when you flip that script that you tell yourself and say, I deserve to be here, then it really opens up a lot more doors.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can worry about the specific skills. But
Yes.
yes.
I mean, I'm 53 years old. Like, the skills that I have now are so improved, like much improved from when I was younger. But you have to start somewhere. And every person that you're in the room with started somewhere, right? And you learn on the way. And it's that idea of being open to learning and being open to trying and being open to making mistakes. That's really what makes you a great leader because You're not worried about what everybody else thinks. You're worried about doing the job that you were hired to do and doing it to the best of your ability.
Mhm. Yeah, it's also something I was thinking is just putting yourself out there,
Mm,
right? Like if you don't raise your hand to take on something that feels uncomfortable, if you don't say, "Hey, I'm going to use my voice in this meeting and speak up," or if it's like, "I'm going to say no more often than yes," right? So it is putting yourself out there and doing kind of the scary stuff. Yes, I belong to be here, and now I am going to do something that feels uncomfortable and feels scary because that is, I mean, to me, it's the action that builds the confidence, right?
yeah. Action's what leads to growth. And do the things you think you can't, right? If you think, "Oh, no, I won't be able to do that," do it. Do it anyways. Do it scared. Um, I climbed a mountain in 2015. I'm not a mountain climber. I'm a mom of 6. I live in Florida at sea level. We have 16 stairs in our house. That's about it. But I was really struggling at that point, really n not feeling good about any part of my life other than my family. And so I was asked to climb Kilimanjaro, and I said yes. Goes back to the yes girl thing, but I said yes, and then I looked at what I had to do, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what did I sign myself up for?" But getting out of my comfort zone and doing something that I never thought I could do really changed so many things for me, really changed everything for me. I mean, I showed up as a different person because I realized what I was capable of. So if we don't put ourselves out there, then how do we grow? How do we realize what we're capable of? So it is so important that we take the time to say, you know what? This is uncomfortable, but this will be really good for me.
Mhm. Yes, that's where most of your growth happens. Well, Simone, if you were mentoring an early leader over coffee tomorrow morning, what would you encourage them to start doing, and what would you encourage them to leave behind?
Mm. So young leaders, emerging leaders don't like this, but I'm going to say it anyways. The idea of positive affirmations. I think that we really have to talking to ourselves like we do our best friend, right? If you say things to yourself that you're not capable or you're not good enough, would you ever say that to your best friend? No, you wouldn't. So why would you say it to yourself? So I think that is one of the first things is really talk to yourself with respect. I mean, and the idea of demonstrating respect and not demanding respect. So I think a lot of times we go in with an
Mhm.
attitude of like, I'm going to demand respect from everybody around me. Well, is that what you really want? I think it's more important that we demonstrate respecting ourselves and then the respect for from other people will follow. And I would say the last thing is we need to change the way we see ourselves, right? When we walk into a room, it's that understanding of you deserve to be there, right? You deserve to apply for the promotion. You deserve to raise your hand. You deserve to use your voice.
Yes, all of those are great things to for them to consider, and I think it's even raising your hand to be a leader, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That
Saying I'm
yeah.
in.
Well, yeah, because what happens is that, like, you don't know if you're gonna get promoted or not, but if your boss knows you wanna lead, then they're more likely to then it's in their frame of reference, right? So it's like putting your hand up and going, "Yes, I wanna try this leadership thing," is a good start, and not being worried if you have it all together because you don't, you won't. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You learn along the way, and it really is about asking for what you want because if you don't ask, you will never know.
So true. Well, Simone, where can people find out about you, connect, and learn more about your podcast?
So my website, SimoneKnego.com, which is SimoneKnego. And my podcast is called Her Unshakable Confidence. And lastly, I have a new book coming out in February, which is called Real Confidence, a simple guide to go from unsure to unshakable. And you can find that at realconfidencebook.com. And then you can search me on social media. You'll find me.
I'll link that all up in the show notes. But Simone, before we close out today, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Anything I didn't ask, or you just want to leave them with?
Mm. I would say the last thing is that so often we feel like when we're stepping into a different role, we need to change who we are, right? We need to do things differently that we normally wouldn't do that way. And you don't need to change who you are. You need to change the way you see yourself. Simple as that.
Great way to end, Simone. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.